Hello and welcome to our webinar. I'm Andrej of ZebraBI, and this is already our 16th webinar from the ZebraBI webinar series. So I'm really happy that today I'll be able to cover the topic of income statements, how to create the income statements in Power BI, how to prepare the data, how to model the income statements, also of course how to visualize them in a really clear and user-friendly way. I have seen a lot of attempts to report on the P&Ls, income statements in Power BI, and also actually the thing that prompted me to do this webinar today is that recently we did a redesign of an income statement of actually Microsoft's financial results, which sort of got popular, and I got a lot of requests to just show how we did that. And so hopefully today I'll be able to explain this in quite some detail, I would say. So let me show you what I mean by this. So most of the income statement reports look like some kind of table, and I've seen a lot of attempts to visualize this as well. Of course, this is a standard, report. So what we did in our redesign is we have tried to make it highly visual and just use, all the wonderful features of the Power BI platform with, the interactive tooltips and also the visual properties of the ZebraBI custom visuals that can make it highly visual, that can display trends and so on in a really powerful way. So let me show you what I mean. This is actually this blog post. So here's a published version directly inside the blog post. So for example, there are many challenges actually in presenting the Power BI. Presenting the P&Ls or income statements in Power BI. First of all, the structure of an income statement, it's a calculation, so you have some good KPIs like the revenues, but then you also have the costs, right? So the costs need to subtract this result and so on. And the cost, if this is a cost and costs are growing, then you have some positive growth, but the meaning of that needs to be inverted, right? So you have two types of basic KPIs or accounts in your P&L statements, and then you also have things like results and intermediate results or the subtotals and so on. So it's kind of it gets a little, even the structure of the P&L gets a little bit complex, right? But now if you can do this in Power BI, it can look really beautiful, and on top of that, of course, you can use wonderful Power BI features. Like for example, here we did this little tooltip where if you just hover with your mouse across a certain account, certain KPI, you'll see the details. In this case, it's all quarterly results, but I'll show you how to do this also on a monthly basis. So now, of course, this is completely interactive. So you move now. This is a service and other revenue, and inside the tooltip we've got the final result, and we've got the time trend of a quarter, so quarterly time series here with a little difference highlight, this little green arrow showing what's the growth from quarter, and below, a little bit below, there's another calculated measure here, which is the percent of revenue. So you see not only the absolute values, but also the structure share of this particular account in revenue. All right, and of course, when you go to the revenue, the percentage will disappear because it's always 100%. So this is another little feature that we did here. And for example, if you move from a good KPI to a bad KPI, then you can change the chart inside or change the colors of the chart. So for example, here we just did it a little bit more in grayish color instead of white, just to indicate that this is a it's a type of a cost and expense. And now you see that the expenses here are also growing a little bit, but the arrow on the right side of the chart is red this time. Okay, so it needs to change. Also, little details need to change based on the type of the account. All right, so we'll try to replicate this today. So I'll show you how to do it in Power BI, and also, of course, if you are lucky enough to have all your income statements, in a nice model, so you just, add the new month to your model and just refresh everything in Power BI, then this can get actually pretty powerful. So in this case, I do have like the time series for 3 years on a quarterly basis, so I can display like here the product revenue for 3 years. See the growth here in absolute values, in relative terms, and I can actually put all of the accounts on one page, and everything is nicely scaled, so I understand how much did the product revenue or the service revenue here contribute to the total revenue here in this particular case, and what's going on with the costs and other KPIs. Also, why certain values are different or something. It's obviously because of this particular account here, and so on. So it can get pretty powerful. It can get actually very, very complex as well. So in this case here, we have put the revenue, the good KPIs on one side, and then the costs, the bad KPIs on the other side here. And of course, this is all completely interactive, so you can do it, like from the Q4 2 years ago to Q4 this year, or something like that. Just the shorter one. This would be just for 1 year, but this is now quarter over quarter growth, right? So quarter 4 over quarter 4 17. All right, these are some annual. Then, of course, the formatting, the presentation of the income statements, at least the basic ones. You have many options how to do that with, highly visual, all presented in charts, or you can try to do a little table like this here, which has a hierarchical structure. So I'll try to show you how to build this in today's webinar. All right, let's see what else have we planned for today. So we will start with Excel, with some basic data, very simple. So some, the income statement here, and we'll just take, two columns, and try to load this table into Power BI, and first of all, handle the different types of KPIs that are here. We'll show the growth rates in the growth from previous year in different formats and so on. So we'll do this visual version first, then we'll do the version in a table, again compared to previous year. Then we'll also add the plan, right? Because in a typical monthly report, you probably have your actuals here. So for example, August this year or something like that, and then you compare this to the previous year's value and also compare this to plan. So the resulting page should look something like this, with the variance to previous year on one side and the variance to plan also on the other side, so you can understand what's the situation compared to previous year, but what's of course the situation compared to plan, right? So this will be the first part. So it's kind of a basic introduction to how to visualize this, how to connect it to Power BI. And then in the second part of the webinar, I do intend to get a little bit more into advanced details, and we will use a little bit of DAX, because now we'll move from simple Excel table to an actual model of an income statement, which will have the time series. It will have a full calendar, so the end user then is able to, for example, select, it has this time functions and drop-down menus, so he can simply choose the period, the month here, or the year, and then he can also switch from monthly to year-to-date view, right? Which is also something that you need especially in monthly reporting, to be able to quickly switch from monthly to year-to-date results. So we'll do this with a little bit of DAX here. Then I'll show you the tricks, for example, how to build this nice tooltip with more details inside the tooltip. And we'll try different types of layouts. So for example, instead of using the tooltip, we'll also try another version which has the detailed information not in the tooltip, but actually on the Power BI report, which is kind of a challenge here, because when if you click on for example, here, the gross margin, it's obviously, this is now compared to previous year by month. So lots of details here, but we all see that, the gross margin is growing from previous year. That's why everything is green. But if I would click on some sort of expenses here, then this chart would have to show, red values if, the value is, the costs are growing, right? So we'll need a few tricks how to, change the charts here based on the actual selected element here. So I'll try to show you a few tricks like that. And then we'll move on to more advanced views. Once you have your time series here, you can do a lot of things. It actually becomes really, really powerful, because you have your basic most important KPIs in any company, and you have long time series. You can do many types of comparisons. So for example, you can just choose here certain accounts, like in this case, certain types of revenue, and then the total revenue, and then the gross margin, operating income, net income. Everything is presented on one page, so it's easily comparable. And this can get then even more complex. You can add more charts, with different types of charts actually. So as you move into complexity, the charts need to get more simple and even cleaner, and you have to handle the number of data labels and all the details like that, so that it still functions. It's not too cluttered. In the end, if you really want to move into complexity and into high density of information, then we'll also try to make the small multiples here even more powerful. Right. So this is my plan for today, and we'll try to do it in like half an hour. So we'll still have the question for the Q&A. And we are recording this, so we'll send you the recording afterwards. And I'll also hand out all the templates and Excel files and Power BI models afterwards when the recording is ready. All right, let's get some work done now. Okay, I'll start with some simple data in Excel. First, my first small recommendation here is, when you're preparing data, if you're just loading data from Excel into Power BI, convert your tables into Excel tables, like here, so it's press on a normal table, just press Control T and try to convert all your tables into Excel tables like this. It's kind of I think works best with Power BI. It's clean, and you know where your data is, and it's an actual table and so on. So now let me open. Now I'll just open an empty Power BI report, and in this report, this is just an empty page with some titles, and these are just some empty text boxes that I prepared in advance. I have my Zebra BI visuals here, so we have two visuals that we'll use in today's webinar here. So and we'll start by getting the data out of Excel. Here, just connect to my Excel. So this is my first file here. I'll just quickly load the first table. Right, so here you see these are the worksheets. There are 3 worksheets, and these are the tables. You need to be careful because this design here is quite similar. Right, so I'll just load my first table. Right, so I have my accounts, and I have data for 2 years, and I also added the account ID, which is basically just the sort order of the accounts, right? Because as we'll see, of course, the order of the elements of the income statement is very important in any presentation of the income statement. So, of course, you want to get your order right from the gross revenue down to gross margins, and then at the end the income and so on. Right, so this is my first, these are now the Zero BI Power Tables. I have my 2 columns here, so this is really simple now. So we'll just first I'll add the 2018, so these are my actual values, and I will compare this to previous years, 2017. Right, so this is now in the field of previous year. Now I'll just split this by account. All right, and as you see, the Zero BI visuals, of course, already calculate all the variances. This is the absolute variance, this is the relative variance, so the growth rates from previous year. This is all done, but we need to fix a few things here. So first of all, the order of accounts. Right, now everything is ordered by the actual. Well, the first reason for that is that the Zero BI visual, this one, will sort by the actual values by default, right? So, but if you click here, just switch off the sort order. However, my accounts are still ordered, right? So what I need to do here, I need to say, all right, I want to sort this account by account ID, right? So this is now the custom sort. I just need to move this and move it back. All right. So now everything is sorted exactly as provided here in Excel. So just make sure that you have this order, 1, 2, 3. Just type in your order, right? If you're doing it manually here, or use some sort of formulas, or hopefully you'll be able to link all this not to Excel but directly to your general ledger or much better data warehouse or some other type of database. All right. Now we've got the order right, but not yet the visualization. All right, so first of all, here on our visual, you can switch the type of chart. All right, for each column, you can switch the type of chart if that's meaningful, right? So in my case, I have a few options here. First of all, if you click once, you get a comparison. So this is the dark one is the actual, and then the gray one behind it is the previous year value, right? So the tooltip shows me both values here, but this is not what I want. I actually want a waterfall chart here. Voila, this is the waterfall chart. So this is the first version. So this will only present the actual waterfall chart, but we do have the other option. If you click once more, now you get 2 waterfall charts for actual and for previous year. This is exactly what I want now. All right, now I need to distinguish between different types of calculations here, right? So now the waterfall chart is just adding my elements here because he's completely ignorant, doesn't distinguish between the revenues and costs and the subtotal results and so on. So how to fix this? Simply go here, and now I have product revenue and service revenue, and this totals to the revenue. So what I'll do here is right click and just mark this as a result. All right. So now our visual, the ZebraBI visual, is calculating the results, right? All right, so this is the cost here, so I'll just invert this. All right, so see I get a little minus here. Everything is formatted along the way, so the visual does everything, everything else you just need to mark it. And this will be the service costs, right? And of course, once you mark a row, once you invert one row, then also the colors here will change, right? So my costs, service costs are growing from previous year for 17%, and this is bad, right? So that's why this color here is also inverted, right? Now my gross margin is a result. These are again some expenses here. So just click through your P&L structure. This is a result. Sorry, I missed that. This is already operating income. This is a result. This is other income on top of operating income, right? So it should be added. And all right, now this is another result. Provision for income taxes, that's a kind of a, all right, it's kind of a cost here. And my final result, the net income. That's it. We've got ourselves a nice P&L presentation here directly from Excel. And more or less everything is done. If you see a little, if you see here's a, this gray, the grid lines here, this is something that the visual does. It will automatically present, a grid line above each, result and so on. But then on top of that, you have a few more options like here in the chart settings. By default, we have grid lines also on every 5 elements, which you can switch off here for the P&L. So now you've got only the grid lines above the results. And that's more or less it. You will see that Zebra BI Visual will decide for certain values that they are, if they are really big, if they stand out, it will automatically limit the value, but display the right value. So the growth here is 35%, but it's an outlier, so that's why it's marked like this, and cut so that other elements are still visible here. And the last thing that I want to do here is just take care of my labels. All right, so by default, like in Power BI elsewhere, each value is presented. So for example, if it's a big value, it will be presented in millions, while this one is presented in K. All right, so you need to be careful with this. And you also always have these MK symbols here, but you can completely control this in our visuals. So if you check out the data labels settings, you will see that this is only one option here. You can switch to thousands and control the number of decimals places. Then you can decide where to show this unit, the km and billions and so on. By default, it's inside the labels, but you can move that to the title, which I personally think is better, because it results in cleaner visualization. So now I have everything in K, and this K is not repeated, so it's just a little less redundancy here. And actually this one, I'd probably present it in millions, and one that's in one place, and that's it. All right, so this was quite easy. Now let's do another thing. All right, so this was really simple. But it required you to calculate, you see, the intermediate results and so on. So basically you have to do your own P&L in Excel and then connect it here. What you can also do is present it in this way. Now, what I have done is, now I have 2 levels in my P&L. All right, 2 levels. I have account, and then I'm grouping accounts by this result, right? So I have product revenue and service revenue, and then I don't provide the formula here in Excel, but rather the visuals will, calculate the results. All right. So you don't have to calculate your results in Excel or in other, in your database. You can simply provide it as a hierarchy here. So product revenue and service revenue both belong to the account group revenue, right? And then I have in the gross margin section, I have the product cost and service and other costs, and this is all in my gross margin group here. So that's why both of them have the gross margin group and so on. Then I have those operating costs here, which will result in operating income. So basically you just write your results here, all right? And of course you need to provide two additional columns for sorting. The first one is for accounts, and the second one is the sorting for the account groups. You see revenue 1 and then gross margin 2. Okay, so this is my second simple data set here with a little twist on top of my this year's results and previous year results. I also have the plan. All right, so this time we'll do it with the plan. And all right, let me just duplicate this page, and so I'll get rid of this one. Okay, so this time we'll connect to again to Excel, to the same file. All right, so this will be my second table here. All right, let's load it. All right, I got it in my Power BI. So again, I'll use the same visual, right? I'll use the same visual. Let's make it bigger. This will be the whole hierarchical table with, the hierarchy of accounts and everything. And all right, so first of all, let's sort the accounts beforehand. So just click on your account, go to modeling and choose the appropriate column for sorting. So account will be sorted by account ID, while account group will be sorted by account group ID. All right, now I have two groups here, and what I typically do is create the hierarchies, right? If this is a hierarchy, you can create it simply in Power BI. So click on the account and just move it, drop it on top of the account group, which will result in an additional account hierarchy here, voila, which Power BI will create for you. All right, so now let's drop in the data. So first of all, my actuals, then the second one is previous year, and I will just add the whole account group hierarchy here. Click, voila, everything is inside. So this is my account group, account hierarchy. It's already sorted. You see it's first revenue and so on because we have provided the custom sort. And it's more or less, it already looks kind of familiar. Again, we have the problem with the costs here. Some costs will have to be inverted, right? Just before that, in a hierarchical table, you can choose where to display your subtotals, right? So there are additional options here for such tables. So for example, what I will do now here is just decide to show the totals below, all right? So which results, in my subtotals now below my accounts, which is more standard for the P&Ls. So first of all, I would do that. And now let's mark the rows. So my revenue is a result. And all right, so maybe this will be better visible if we immediately switch to the waterfall chart here. So let's switch the chart. All right, so see now everything is just going like that. But these are product costs are increasing, which will effectively decrease the total variance. And then I'll invert this. my gross margin is now a result. If this would be something like a, cost of goods sold, for example, here, you would just leave it. You would just leave it because now you see it's already a subtotal of this row and this row, which would be perfect for the cost of goods sold, right? So you can also use it for cost of goods sold. But in my case here, my gross margin is a result. Okay. So in this case, so this visual is quite smart. So it knows where to subtract certain things, and are there normal subtotals, or So now actually, Zebra BI Visuals has subtracted the product costs and service and other costs from the revenue. All right, and this is now the result, and we'll just do this. So the intermediate results here are calculated by the Zebra BI visual, right? So you don't have to do it in your data. So this is other income, it's increasing, that's good. This is another result. Provision is, and the final result, the net income. All right, that's it. That's a hierarchical table. It's another type of presentation here. So now this one again is completely responsive. So if you make it smaller, you see, if you make it smaller, then the relative growth from previous year will switch from the chart to a more narrow column. And if you make it even smaller, at some point, you see, you get the presentation is more narrow, right? All right. One thing here with the categories, if you want to display full labels of all the categories, then go here under settings for the categories and just switch from automatic display. Automatic display will always shorten, very long things and so on, very long labels, texts. So you have other options. So the first one is just say full, and now this will be, the first column will be fixed, and it will fit exactly to the longest text here, right? So this is useful if you really want to display all the text and no trimming. Then you have the other option, which is also which I personally use a lot of times. So you can actually fix the width of the category column to exact number of pixels, like something like, I don't know. Oops, that's too much. That's even. Sorry, like this. All right, so you can just fix it to a certain width, and now it will stay fixed to exact number of pixels. All right, again here, the last thing would be to fix the data labels. Fix the data labels. I would probably display it in millions and put make it cleaner like this. All right, but we also have the plan. All right, so now I can even add the plan as my third scenario, right? So now I have the previous year here, then I have my actuals in the middle, and I have my plan, and I have two charts comparing the growth from previous year and the variance to plan. And of course they are completely scaled, so you understand is so like in this case, the growth from, it's really good growth from previous year, but of course these are now hypothetical numbers. They are not real. They are not from any real project, but voila, you understand what's the situation compared to previous year, what's the situation compared to plan. All right, if you have a lot of space here, then again, you can just make it bigger, and then, it'll be presented in a more graphical, visual way. Whereas if you make it smaller, the certain charts will go out, and certain columns will be hidden automatically. So even on a mobile device, this will look nice. As you know, the Power BI has really, really nice You see, you can just display this on a mobile device. So the Power BI apps on mobile, they're really nice. So you can take advantage of that. Perfect. So this was the first part, getting the data from Excel inside, and the basic presentation of my P&L, which is nice. I just moved from my Excel to a nice presentation in Power BI. Of course, now you can publish this, you know, as internal reports, or you can even publish it to you know, to web, use it as, you know, for public income statement presentations on a website or somewhere else. Or you can, with the new version of Power BI, with the latest update, which is August update, there's a really nice function called export to PDF. Probably you all know this, but if you don't, do update to the latest Power BI update. So this is August update. It has really nice features, many fixes, improvements, and so on. And this one is probably this was the, you know, most requested feature. So if you just click here, all the pages will get exported to PDF, and the rendering is really nice. So you see, it's perfect. It looks like exactly like the original, with everything, with the comments and everything. So it's a nice thing, and I can just use this PDF. All right, as a static report, send it to somebody, and so on. All right, cool. Now let's move from this, you know, static world. Now, of course, now you can go back to Excel and, you know, change your data here. You know, just change some certain numbers, and like that, you know, just refresh it with the data for the new month, and just go back to Power BI, refresh it, and, you know, the new data is loaded, and use it like that. But of course, that's just the beginning. In fact, Power BI is a really powerful tool for data modeling. So you actually want to, I won't say this one. You actually want to have a nice model. So let me move now to the advanced part, which I have here. And I'll try to show you the real difference and a few tricks if you have a longer time series. All right, so this is now the same report, the same visual, done in exactly the same way, but this time I can choose my period, my month here, or I can switch from monthly to year-to-date values. So you see, this is now 50 million or something, and before it was 5. So this is it. And I also have this tooltip here to show the monthly development. Okay, so for this, my data now contains month. It's still kind of simple. You know, I just have my accounts here, but this time I have, you know, monthly P&L values for the income statement, and I have this for, you know, a few years. Again, still in Excel, just, you know, for this presentation, I have it in Excel. But now, when you load this data into Power BI, you will see it. So this is my table here. Right. Okay. So here, when you load it, if you have data in this format, so you have columns. It's kind of a cross tab actually. So you have accounts in rows, and then you have you know, month in your columns. Then when you load this data into Power BI, you will need to switch to Power Query, and so this is my all right. So source navigation. So this is my Excel table, this is my original table, but once, if you have this in Power BI, you need to unpivot the columns, all right? So you need to go from this format, from the columns here, to unpivot it, right? So this is now a normalized table, so you actually have all the month labels, in rows. So it will just move it from columns to rows, okay? The way to do that, so this is, if you have this, the way to do this is, actually the easiest way to do this is just here, click on the accounts, and then for all the rest of the columns, you transform them, and you say here, unpivot other columns, all right? When you click this, this will result in a normalized table like this, all right? So this is the way how to unscramble your data if it's not in raw format already. All right, so this would be the first thing. So you do this in Power Query. Once you have this, you will have your table here, and then the second thing is you need to create your calendar. All right. I don't have time today to explain how to create the calendar or the period dimension, time dimension in Power BI, but it's well covered on the internet. Maybe I'll do it the next time, show you some DAX and so on. So just maybe the basic idea is all right. So here's a short DAX that I typically use. So it's actually called the calendar. So you use the calendar function, and then you just give it the first day from your fact table. So from my income statements, from my date, which will find the first date in my table, and then the last date, and then the result is the whole calendar. So all the days between the first date and the last date. Okay, this is then the result. So you have all the dates, and then you add the month, like the month, you extract the month with the format function. You extract the month from the date, and then you have the month number, quarters, years, all of that. You have DAX functions for that. Okay, so this is then my calendar, and once you have this, now you will have on top of your income, income statements, on top of your values, you will also have the periods, all right? And of course, if you have let me just maybe duplicate this page, and we'll delete a few things. All right, I'll just do it on this duplicate page. So first of all, these are simple slicers. All right, so first of all, you can just use the years, month, and so on as the slicers. There it is, right? So I just move it here. I would typically switch to drop down. So these are your slicers here. But of course, now you don't have your fixed year 2018, 2017, but you only have the value column. So you need to calculate your previous year value, all right, as a calculated measure. In my case here, it's already quite complex because I'm also using the switch for the year to date and so on. But basically, just for the previous year, just use the dates YTD function, and you will get the previous year value. All right. So basically, if you just want to create the measure for previous year, you can simply do it by adding new measure. So this will be my previous year, and just use the dates YTD function here, which takes the periods date column and adds -1, on the yearly basis. All right, this will be your previous year measure, and once you have it, I'll just use mine now. Once you have it, you would just add the previous year. So you would add the actual value first, and then you add the calculated measure for the previous year. So this is the first thing that you do, the previous year, and then the switch for the YTD. So this the switch for the year to date here. All right, I like to use this a lot. This is in all my data models. I have this switch here. There's actually the trick to do this is quite simple actually. You use I typically would enter the table here, and you can do it manually here in Power BI. Just enter data, and I would create this table that I call the period calculation. The period calculation, and you need two columns. First of all, I'll just call it period calculation again. All right, and so the first option is something like monthly, and here you just give it an ID. All right, and then you have year to date, and this is number 2. So I'll just call it calculation ID. All right, something like that. And then you can also add, for example, moving annual total and other time calculations, right? And then this would be the number 3 and so on. Like you can calculate rolling 13-month or rolling 12-month or rolling 24-month and so on. Just add those options. So this is now just a simple table. I'll cancel this because I already have it here. Yes, and all right. So this is the first step, and then you need to add another measure, which I call just selected, which is the selected if the user clicks on the filter on the slicer, this measure here. So you just measure this, add the measure, and do the min function. And this will return always the selected time period calculation on the report. So this little variable here, this little measure will indicate whether monthly is pressed, which is then resulting in 1, the value 1, and the year to date is value 2, and then you can have value 3 for other period options. And now you use this selection in your measure, which again I put in the same value measure for my actual and in the same value measure for my previous year. All right, this is a little it's maybe a little bit different type of modeling here. Many people would just add value actual and value actual year to date and value previous year and value previous year to date and so on. But this then gets really complex because you'll have the sum product of all the options, and this always results in a really large number of measures. All right, so that's why I do it here, and then I just add this with the switch dex function into the measure. So this switch now checks what's the value, and if the selected calculation is number 1, it just returns the simple monthly value. But if it's the year to date, then I use the function for the year to date, which is the dates YTD, and I calculate this. And then you can also calculate the dates in period, so for 12 months or something like that. So you can have the rolling manual, so moving annual totals and so on. All right, so this will fix your monthly versus year to date. And then, for example, if we show the tooltip now, the tooltip here is again, this will only work in August update of the Power BI desktop. the normal one and also the version for the report server. All right. First of all, you need to have the latest version of the Zebra BI custom visuals that was just released today. We have a new version, and it's a big announcement because now our visual also supports the report page tooltips. All right, but it only works in the August update, so update your Power BIs. All right, then next thing, go to File, Options. All right, File Options, and if you're not using this already, go to the Preview Features and enable Report Page Tooltips. All right, so by default this is disabled, so you need to go into Options and enable this. All right, then click OK, and now you will have the option. If you click here on the visual, you'll get an additional option which is called a tooltip. All right, and this tooltip will have like the default option, which is the normal tooltip in Power BI, and then the report page tooltip, which looks, in my case it looks like this, but you can design your own tooltip in a separate page. All right, so you need to have a separate page for this. I just called it the tooltip page, and mine looks kind of complex, right? And that's because I'm using several charts which are overlapped to achieve this effect of switching the chart. So for example, if I move on top of product revenue, you see it's the white chart. It's the white chart and the growth is positive. And if I move down, this is, it's a gray chart with the red difference highlight. All right, so what I did is I just created one chart. Let me delete this. Okay, and I also put the chart for the all right, this, if you're working with multiple objects and you're doing strange things like overlapping charts and so on, which I do all the time, then you will need the selection pane here much easier. So I just delete the chart just to show you the trick here. So this is my original chart here, and now what I do is I tell this chart to display only the accounts, the positive, the good accounts, which you can do in two ways. The simple way is you put your accounts to filter as a visual level filter, and then just click through, okay, this visual will only display if product revenue is selected or revenue. So just control click to select all the good KPIs. All right, so this is the manual way. Okay, a better way is that you actually add another column into your accounts, which I call the account type. And this account type, so if I show you this table here, so you see my table, I have added another column which is called account type, and I'm using one for all positive good KPIs, and I'm using two for the costs, expenses, and so on. So now I can just use this account type field as the filter. All right, so you just click on this chart and just drop the account type into your filter and just select one, and now you can just copy this chart, copy, paste. All right, now I have a copy like this. Of course, you have to make sure that they are completely overlapped, displayed on exactly the same place. Otherwise, things will jump up or down. Is it like this? Yeah, it's better. All right, so this second one now, so now I have two versions of it, and on the second version, I will switch my filter to number 2, so to costs. So this one will display costs, and I will now change the design a little bit. So for example, The style, just use neutral color, you know, something else just to make it different. And very important, here in the chart settings, in the first chart settings, switch invert variance colors to on, right? This will now invert the display of this row here, of the difference highlight. All right, and now this will work like this. All right. Okay, so these are the basic techniques. Now, of course, instead of putting the details in the tooltip, which is quite popular right now, but in many cases it's actually better that you put charts, you know, like a master detail design. So you have your P&L here, and then you put your details around it, so on the right side of it. And now, for example, here, what I've done is, if you click on a certain KPI, this whole thing is filtered. And again, I'm using this trick with you know, with the filters. So for example, this is the revenue. The revenue is growing, so everything is green here, but the product, if it's a cost, you see, if the costs are growing, it's inverted, right? So I'm using one chart here, and then I'm using another chart here where I have calculated the structure share, so the percent of revenue goes like this. So I find this actually much better. Then this is another trick. So as I have many overlapped charts here, because the revenue, you know, if you display the percent of revenue, you know, this is now 37% here for the service revenue, but if you click here, you'll always get 100% here. So what I've done here is I've made another chart which is just filtered, which just gets displayed if the revenue is selected, all right? And this chart now just is placed on top of all the charts, right? So it basically covers that's 100% chart for the gross, for the share of the revenue. All right, so we need to bring this to the end with the small multiples. Once you have all your accounts and once you have the time series, it's really easy to make the comparisons. So for this, we'll use this, our second chart, and you just add your value and your previous year value, and you break this down by month. So like this. And this time I will add the account. I just put the account inside, which automatically will display a monthly trend of all your accounts, and everything is scaled and so on. So of course now this is a complete mix of everything, but if for example you just want to display the usually you will want to first display the you know, the good ones, so you can just go here and filter out the account type. So this is my number one, so these are the, you know, revenues and so on. So this is, it gets a little better here. Then maybe some of them I would filter out here just to make sure that things are a little bit better. One thing that you can do with the small multiples here is go to the categories column and switch from the automatic category width to fixed category width, and here you can control, so you can make the chart smaller, something like this, right? So now you can display 4 by 2. So this is how you exactly control how many pixels, you know, the columns, the minimum value of the column is, right? So, you know, for very dense displays, maybe 20 is sort of the minimal value here. And then maybe you can filter out some of the other ones that are not so important. And the other thing is, again, here you have the sorting. So the small multiples are sorted always by the revenue, which is typically the best option, but not in the case of the KPIs, where you actually always, more or less always want to have the, the sort. original order. All right, so now you have the product revenue, service and other revenue, the revenue, the gross margin, and here you have the incomes like operating income, other income, and so on. And now you can of course choose the types of charts that would work best. You can design your own tooltip for this, right? And also, once you move into really high information density, go to data labels, and here you'll find many options how to make the labels really clean and so on and so on. So first of all, I would again switch to millions and put the data label in the title. This is even more important here in in time charts where everything is very dense and so on. And here the density of the labels you can switch, so reduce it a little bit, and which would result in a nice presentations and of all the KPIs. All right, this was a quick run through of presenting the income statements. I do plan to have another webinar on this topic where I will, slowly go through maybe some DAX functions and so on. I have played around with an interesting idea of the rolling period. So for example, August to August, 13 month, and I can control it here, just put July to July, June to June, and so on, which is interesting because, you want to have year over year from month to month. That's also one of the typical P&L requirements. So maybe I'll show you this in the next webinar, but in any case, I will send all these examples to everybody who has registered. So expect this together with the recording in 2 to 3 days. All right, let's try to take some questions quickly. I know we are late. Well, I was late. So please, when you have questions, please type it in your questions box. I'll try to answer a few questions. We've got quite a lot of questions here. So let me see. My eyesight is getting worse, but will this be recorded? Yes. I just got the answer. Do you have the ability to drill through for details? If not, is that on a map? Yes, you do. So, well, the answer is not so simple. So, for example, here, I have in this visual, so the first visual, I'm using the, two fields in the category here. So, so if you go up, you only have the years, you see, 2017, 2018. And now you can just drill, so for example, expand all down like this, or you go up and then you go and you can drill here, use the drill mode and go into 2018. All right, which is nice, especially if you use it with the quarters. So now you can just go from you see this is year, these are my 3 years now. You can just expand and have, sorry. Now I would need to clear this would not work on this particular report because it's a rolling report. This one has a really special calculation. But yes, so the short answer is it works on this visual. In this visual, it's at the moment it's not supported, but it's planned. It's planned and it's planned in a little bit different way. So with the expand collapse option for accounts to go into each branch, drill down into each branch. All right, thanks guys. What does the pricing look like? The pricing is, well, the base price is $8 per user per month. This is in case there are not many users, for a few users and so on, and then the price goes down significantly if there are more users, like 20, 50, 100, 1000 and so on. So we also offer site licenses and enterprise licenses for the whole companies. For the mobile version, do you have to create two visuals, like the small compact and the normal size? No, that's exactly the That's the beauty of it. So that's the beauty of it. They're completely responsive. So for example, for the small multiples, the question was about small multiples, how it will show up on a mobile. The thing is here, if you make this is completely responsive. Look at this. So if you don't have enough space, the whole matrix is rearranged. So now it's getting smaller, and this is how it will look on a mobile. You just scroll down. So you just scroll down and you just read from top to bottom. Exactly the same visual. Exactly. So it will work by default on all devices, right? So it just rearranges itself. Even if you have it like this, and then you put it in a focus mode. In a focus mode, you see now I have 5 columns, so it's presented in a much larger way. Is it possible to hide 2 detailed rows in an income statement, for example, product variances? Yeah, sure. I mean, the simple way to do this, is something like manual, just manual filter. Like in this case, for example, the other revenue, I would just probably not display it or something. So just filter it out. So just select everything and then filter out the, sorry, not this one, the other income. It will go out here, and of course you can do the same here in the rows. If you want to exclude something, you can filter it out, but this now depends. If you do it here, in this case, it will work because the column, the values of the other values are, the results are calculated in your database, right? Whereas if you do it in the other, I have it here, the other way, so if you display it here, now the visual is calculating the results, so you need to make sure that you're just including those results, that you include all the rows that will contribute to the same result. So if you miss something, then the subtotal will not be correct. All right, guys. Wow, so many questions. Thank you. I was a bit too long, so if you guys want to stay, so let's say like that. I will just bring this to an end. I would ask everybody to download the visuals. If you haven't tried it yet, there's a free trial here, so just go to this page, and the resources, all the webinar recordings. This was the 16th. All the other ones are recorded and are available here on this link. So zebrabi.com webinars, you'll see this, and we have a separate help page for the Power BI. So just for everybody. And then whoever wants to stay, I'll try to answer a few questions, and for everybody else, I'll try to follow up with your questions over the email. So thank you very much for your attention. Bye. And if somebody wants to stay now and just let me see, there are so many questions here. So we covered this. Well, all right. Again, the questions about the licensing. So, well, thanks, guys. I would say if you have questions about the licensing and so on, please send us an email to info@zebrabi. All right, or me personally. So it's zebra.bi. So this is my email. You can just email me directly, or just send us questions to info@zebra.bi. We have standard license packages and pricing. So it's I think it's affordable. How to activate the tool once more? So actually I haven't done this. I haven't shown this. So as any other custom visual, you import it, right? So first of all, you download it from the link that I've sent, and then you will just download the 2 files for these 2 visuals, and then you go here under visualizations, click on the ellipsis here, import from file, and that's it. And then you you go to your downloads, and so for example, I have mine here. So you just need to, sorry, this is the Excel version, and for example, yeah, so just select it, select the file, and all right, now I already have it, so it's prompting to update, and then that's it. And then the visual is imported, you'll have it here. You need to do this for each report that you are designing. All right. And the normal size. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Bye.